right? Like Khabbab ibn al-Arat, right? Who knows Khabbab ibn al-Arat? Anybody? Khabbab? Yeah, but who was he as a Sahaba? Anybody know? Khabbab ibn al-Arat. Yeah, good. But who was he? That's what happened to him. Who was he? Nobody? You guys have to read Sirah. He's one of the first Muslims. He's also the first Muslim to openly say that he was Muslim. He was a Najdi from Bani Tamim, but as a child he'd been kidnapped. He was kidnapped and he was sold in Mecca. And that happened. The Arabs used to do that. The tribes were marauding tribes. Suhaib al-Rumi was stolen when he was a child and sold into. Salman al-Farisi was a free man, sold into slavery. So Khabbab, he was a qain, like a smith. He used to make swords for the people of Mecca. He was owned by a woman, the woman that bought him, Anmar, very sick woman. And when he became Muslim, what happened was, because he announced his Islam, he couldn't keep it in. Because the Prophet ﷺ was in the time of Kitman, but he couldn't keep it in. And he started telling people, why don't you listen to this man? He was mustad'af in Mecca, right? He didn't have any power. The people that had power, and this is important to note because a lot of Muslims don't appreciate this fact. The Prophet ﷺ had protection in Mecca. Not all of his Sahaba had protection. Not all of them had protection. He had protection. So this idea that we all have to suffer collectively is a false concept, and people should rid their minds of this idea that because some of us are suffering, all of us have to suffer or throw ourselves in the line of suffering. We should have hum and be concerned about those people like the Prophet ﷺ was, but we also have to have wisdom, hikmah. So Khabbab, what Anmar did, she got some of her ruffians amongst the Quraysh. They went, held him down. She took his tools and she literally branded him because he was a smith. She branded him with hot iron, torturing him. He actually suffered from it later on. He became very wealthy. He lived in Kufa, but he suffered. So, Bilal ibn Rabah and Ammar ibn Yasir and Khabbab, they suffered more than anybody else in terms of just ta'deeb. Sumayya also, she was killed, we know that. But Khabbab goes to the Prophet, and it's a very interesting hadith. It's in Sahih Bukhari. It's a very interesting hadith to me because it says, Khabbab says, I found him mutawassidun burdatan fi dhill al-Ka'bah. He was reclining. He had his burda like a pillow, and he was reclining in the shade of the Kaaba. In other words, what it appears in the hadith is that he was in a very comfortable position. He's lying down. He's in the shade of the Kaaba, not in the heat. And what does Khabbab say? أَلَا تَسْتَنْصِرُوا لَنَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ أَلَا تَدْعُوا لَنَا يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Won't you give us victory, O Messenger of God? Won't you call on God to punish these people? In the hadith that's in Tirmidhi, he gets up and it says, مُحْمَرْ وَجْهُهُ. His face was red. The ulama differ. Some say it was from the wisada, and others say it's because he was upset at what Khabbab said. Now you have to realize Khabbab is really suffering. So what does he say? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He says to Khabbab, the people before you, كان الرجل من قبلكم, the people before you, right? يجاء به فيجعل يحفر له حفرة فيجعل فيها. They used to dig a pit, put him in the pit, and then they would come with a minshar and they would literally cut him in half. And he said that wouldn't لا يصده عن دينه لا يصد ذلك وذلك لا يصد عن دينه. That wouldn't prevent him from his religion. And then he said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or they would take amshat and they would rake his flesh and tear it from the skin until it went to the bone or the nerve. Imagine, he's talking about torture. And this is Khabbab's being tortured, but not as bad as that. So and this is an important qa'idah, because one of the things Ibn Abbas said, in any tribulation, in any musibah, there's 3 ni'am. The first one, it could be worse. And that's what the Prophet's letting him know. I know that you're suffering, but it could be worse. And that's a ni'mah. So he tells them, this is what happened. They rake the flesh over. And he said, Wallahi, by Allah, Allah is going to complete this affair. لَيُتِمَنَّ هَذَا الْأَمْرِ. Allah is going to, حَتَّى يَسِيرَ الرَّاكِبُ مِنْ صَنْعَاء إِلَى حَضْرَمَوْتِ. A traveler will go, and he chose a place that was known for قُطَعْ الطُّرُقِ, a bad area. A traveler will go from Sana'a to Hadramaut, لَا يَخَافُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَذِئْبَ عَلَى غَنَمِهِ. He won't fear anything except Allah and the sheep, the wolves from devouring sheep. And then what did he say? وَلَكِنَّكُمْ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. But you are trying to hasten something that's not coming yet. In other words, be patient. Be patient. If you're not ready for victory, if you don't have the tazkiyah, it's a blessing that Allah won't give you victory, because it's better to be an oppressed than an oppressor.